Says we're live.
Cool. Nice. Okay, so we're live. This is Standouts, an only co-production. I'm Josh Law. We got Dave Ackerman here. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the things that stand out about his business. I've known Dave for the last 6 or 8 months at this point. Went on a ride together on our motorcycles. And he stood out to me then, and he has continued to stand out. And I thought it'd be awesome to chat with him about his business. So anyway, I welcome you to just tune in, and really you're just kind of getting a front row seat to our conversation. The reason I thought this would be cool is I have way too many conversations every week that I wish other people could see and be a part of. And so I thought, why not continue? So I am blocking off Tuesdays and Thursdays 4 to 6 to try to do 1 or 2 of these a week, and we'll see how that goes. But Dave's the inaugural guest, which I'm super excited about.
Number one, baby.
Number one, yeah. So he owns a really cool company.
Dude, I'm impressed by your prolific, like you just keep raising the bar, dude. I mean, you guys have done so much good content at OnlyCo, at Go Fast Don't Die. And then for you to be doing a twice a weekly live for up to an hour, I salute you, man. That's well done. So, and I love that I'm the first one, dude. I think our relationship is such that if you're like, I need a willing guinea pig, and I'm happy to be that, dude.
That's awesome. Well, it's great. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I might, you start with ambition and then you get to reality at some point, and we'll see where those things cross. But yeah, so Dave, do you want to share a little bit about your background? I particularly loved getting to know kind of that, the style kind of background and some of that story. I thought it stood out to me, thought it was super cool. So I don't know if you want to share some of that, kind of get to know you, and then we can transition into your business.
Yeah, I'll jump into it. So my background is not in what I do on the daily. I have a clothing company, and we'll get into that in a minute. But really my background was in writing and comedy. I wanted to write movies and make people laugh and do that sort of thing. And I did stand-up comedy and trained at Second City in Chicago and that. And kind of was doing that in the 2000s era and did some YouTube videos. And that led me to do some big high-end kind of what then were known as like viral commercials for companies like Pizza Hut and Cricket and some of that. And I worked for an agency doing that sort of stuff. And I also did videos for really new startups and that didn't have very much money, and they were low budget productions. And what we saw them do is that they'd go on, we'd make a video for them. They'd go on to bigger and better things and agencies and stuff like that. And we were kind of a footnote in their story. And I just started thinking like, I want to do something for myself, something that I can own going forward, instead of kind of starting the process all over again with a fresh client every time. And so we launched a company called Tobacco Motorwear on Kickstarter, and we'll get to that. As for getting into apparel and stuff, like my background and kind of the things I like and stuff come from, like they say, invention or necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so I never had enough money to look cool or to go into, even like when my aspiration was to go into the Gap or the Buckle or something like that, those were the cool stores. I never had the money to do that. And even when I grew older and could have had some disposable income for that, at that point, I didn't like those styles and stuff. And I kind of found my own way stylistically. And that started with my grandpa dropping off a box of old, like 70s, 80s retirement clothes. And I started wearing those to school. And at first, like, people called me Screech, and it was different stuff, right? But the one thing they couldn't tell about me is that I was poor, because it was like, if you wore those jeans that came from Kmart, everybody knew that's that brand from Kmart, and you're not one of us, dude. You know, you're not in the in crowd. But when I was wearing that stuff from my grandpa, they didn't know what it was or where it came from. And it freed me from, you know, I didn't have that many people telling me you're poor, but in my head, I was like, I don't fit in.
Mm.
And when I stopped trying to fit in, when I decided to stand out, hey, tie that in. When I decided to stand out, it freed me from needing to follow the crowd. And now it was, I'm going to find things that I like. And I've done that. And I still do that to this day. And there's a lot of things that you look at my line, and you can see the workwear kind of like I got in college. I went to Utah State University, agricultural school up in the mountains, and fell in love with brands like Filson and Carhartt. And when I ride a motorcycle, I like to wear that sort of style. And so you see that come into my protective wear and stuff that's inspired by that. You see things that are inspired by vintage motorcycle clothing out of the UK, or things like that. And really just looking to find pieces and things that, you know, that maybe not everybody has. And that, you know, it's not just, you know, we still do a lot of black, you know, we still do a lot of denim, but it doesn't look like just everybody's, you know, uniform, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it can help you stand out a little bit. So that's stylistically kind of how I got there, just going my own way. And I didn't.
How old were you when you kind of made that switch to being like, it's okay to stand out if you kind of own it?
So that was, I moved to Utah when I was like in fourth grade, and really struggled, and was kind of a naughty boy in elementary school, and got sent to the principal, and really was running with kind of that crowd that like didn't learn good, you know, and stuff. And that wasn't necessarily me. I was always smart, but in like seventh, eighth grade, that's when and this was before, now, like shopping at a thrift store, there are these high-end thrift stores. Shopping at a thrift store is not uncommon. Really, thrift stores when I was growing up was for people who needed clothes, you know, and didn't have any, and you'd get like a shirt for like $2 and pants for $3 and stuff like that. And my whole budget probably to shop for school clothes at that time was like $30 probably from my mom. And so that would be one pair of pants, if one pair of pants at a store that was like cool stuff. And you know, so after my grandpa dropped off this stuff with Hawaiian shirts, and at the time nobody wore, this was like predated Dockers flat front khakis and that whole movement. So you wore jeans to school, that like everybody wore jeans.
Yep.
So
Yep.
when I started wearing my grandpa's like golf pants and stuff, they'd be like, why are you wearing church pants to school? Like they call them church pants, you know, and I'd wear khaki pants with a Hawaiian shirt, and that was like my uniform. So when they called me Screech, it was like almost me asking for it. And I wasn't outgoing enough with my humor or anything like that. They had to scratch their head and go like, dude, you're too nerdy to stand out. Like if you were a big personality guy doing this, like class clown already, then that'd be one thing, but you're too quiet. So I got picked on for doing that, but that also like, you know, it was like a battle. It was like, I'm not gonna stop being me for anybody else. And so I just kept doing that. And by the time I was through high school, it caught on, and a lot of people were wearing Hawaiian shirts and khaki pants. And it was a thing. I don't know if I was ahead of a trend that was gonna happen, or if I started it in my town, but it definitely, I had people come up to me like, dude, what do you think? And they're wearing my thing, and they had no idea that started for me as a way to get over this mental block of I'm poor, and because I'm poor and they're going to know it, I'm not going to fit in. I never had to worry about money.
Yeah.
because people didn't define me by whether I fit in or not. It was just like, well, he's already doing his own thing.
Yeah, it's like you accepted your reality and said, how am I going to maximize, like, how am I going to play the game,
Oh
but
yeah.
my own way, you know, and
Yeah.
not let it get the best of me. And
Just another, oh, so exactly. Just another quick story, because it's funny in that vein and in that time of my life. So I was also on government paid free lunch, and you would punch your code in to buy your lunch, your pizza or whatever they were in the line. And I could buy one lunch a day, and it was paid for by the government. We were on that assistance program, right? And so again, you know, like kids would spend as much money as they wanted, or they'd buy their one meal and stuff, but they would take a check to the school and put it in their accounts there, and they'd have to bring a new check when it ran out and stuff like that. And nobody knew who was on free lunch or who wasn't, because we had those codes. So I started going to the front of the line. I admit this now. I'd go to the front of the line, see somebody that I didn't know or knew or admired or was afraid of. I did this to my bullies and stuff. I just cut in line right before they were about to pay, punch in my number, and buy them lunch. And it changed my life, because it changed the narrative of who this guy was. Because now, how many kids in school are using their money to buy other kids lunch? None, except me. And I'd be like, yeah, just give me the apple, you know? And then I'd eat the apple. And I was on the wrestling team, so sometimes I was trying to cut weight anyway. So it was just like, I didn't have to eat. And I'd just go around, and I'd ask a kid that I'd bought lunch for before for a, you know, hey, can I have a fry or whatever? That's kind of mooch, but everybody saw me buying people lunch, so it was kind of got a pass for it.
Yeah, you could kind of mooch off everyone, because you kind of hooked up everyone at some point.
Oh, and I hooked up a lot of people, and I met some of my best friends to this day. I met like that, and I would specifically go like, I'm kind of scared of, I'm intimidated by this kid. He's popular. I think he's rich. I don't really know him that well. And if I was intimidated by him, that was somebody that was going to be on my list, because I'd be like, I don't want to be afraid of this person anymore, you know. And literally had people who called me Screech, who tripped me in the hall, who would kind of bully me, and you know, and I bought this kid lunch, and he said, thanks, Screech. And they became kind of like, these football players kind of became, in a way, a little bit, I mean, they always called me Screech, but kind of a fan, you know. Oh, that kid's cool, you know. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
he's okay.
Cool,
He's okay.
but he's okay. Yeah. And the biggest thing though was how it freed my mind. And I didn't think at the time like, oh, now everybody's going to think I have money. I was impatient. I didn't like standing in lines anyway. I didn't always have to eat because I was on the wrestling team, and that money was there. You know, I could buy lunch every day, and it was a nice thing to do. And I didn't just do it for popular people or people that I was intimidated by. Over time, it was just like, I'd see somebody and I'd buy them lunch, and it was just a good turn daily, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And all thanks all on Uncle Sam. So it was a good thing to do.
Amazing. So maybe transitioning down to that being a bedrock of just kind of who Dave was at that point. Like what did you take, and we'll get into specifically about tobacco, but what were some of the lessons from there that you then took with you into business around standing out or being a bit different, or accepting those differences, or anything like that? Were there some nuggets specifically like I use that to today, you know?
Well, definitely there was a contrarian, I have a contrarian streak of like, and I had to learn to moderate that, where like there was this feeling that I think I had to deal with of like rejection by the mass. And then I said, well, okay, then I don't want anything to do with you, the mass, you know. And that, some people take that to a degree where it's like, you like that man, well, I hate that man. And it's like, and I realized probably around my junior year, that was happening. And I'm like, if there's a popular song, let me listen to it before I decide, well, if it's popular, I don't like it.
Don't like it. Yeah.
But that contrarian streak has always been with me. And so, sometimes that makes me, I think for a long time, it made it harder for me to, like I wanted to reinvent the wheel completely every time. I don't want this to look like anything else. And I don't think I could have done tobacco if I'd not learned to moderate that and go, it's okay to take something. Protective genes existed before I came along. And it's okay to take this and modify it, make it your own,
Yeah, like
rather than
use what's out there and stand like, it's kind of like the concept of standing on the shoulders of giants. Like
right.
instead of saying I'll just be the giant underneath again, but like acknowledging, oh, I can just stand on top of what's been created.
You're not a copycat just for acknowledging what good is out there and wanting to play well with others. You could call it that. And I think that's been an evolution, as I've tried to like continue to push the edges of like what in motorcycle apparel, the offering that we have, and go like, we're going to come out with this territory jacket that's really different from what you think of when you picture people riding motorcycles, and even the bandito with the striped sleeves, just to have a jacket that to kind of reinvent our other riding shirt in that way. But clearly that's taking elements from, so again, trying to be different while taking elements from what exists and kind of playing well with those. And so that I think that's a big one when it comes to just like just standing out and being different. I think there were other lessons that I learned, and like fairness and fair play was one that, just off the top of my head, just kind of thinking about that, is I'd been down. I never wanted to treat anybody else like they weren't, I'd felt that. And so as I started to like feel more comfortable in my skin, and that, and you grow up in a school, and now you're the older one, you don't have bullies anymore, and a lot of people turn around, and I went through hell, so I'm going to make hell for somebody else. And so that was never me. I always wanted to feel more inclusive. And if you look at my brand, and this almost happened by accident, and I think just maybe because it's just kind of a value that I have.
It's like in your DNA.
It's like, it's so natural to me, and people come up to us and say, thank you for being so inclusive. And if you, and again, it's been more just an outgrowth of, and it's happened very naturally, but we've had women come up to us and go, thanks for not just having all guys in your media and in your stuff. And they've said thanks for, and we've had people of color coming up to us and saying, for a small brand, it's really cool to see that you guys have found ways. I'm going, those are just our friends, like, but it feels,
we're not doing it to check the diversity box. We're just like, they're there, we're all together. I think that's one of the reasons we get along so well, is like Go Fast has some very similar values of like, one thing that I've kind of been saying is like this concept of exclusively inclusive, where it's just like, come on board, come on in. And in high school, for me, we made ski movies, and it was all about like, come join us. It didn't matter what group you're in, but if you wanted to put on some skis or put on a snowboard, and it didn't matter there either, we didn't care. It's 2 skiers and 2 snowboarders in our group. And so we'd go up, build jumps, and invite anyone and put them in the movie. And, it was just the way I wanted to operate. And I see that in you too. It's really cool.
Well, and I think both of us have kind of, there's a thing that happens in motorcycling, because I think it attracts a lot of people who have been outsiders or feel like they're on the outside, or maybe they didn't go to college. Maybe they, there's a lone wolf mentality in being an individual motorcyclist. But you get a bunch of these lone wolves around, and the society that creates can be a little bit prickly to people on the outside. And you'll see people wearing like the F off hats, or something like that. And what a lot of people who might observe the motorcycle industry, and they see the tattoos and all the facial hair, and they see kind of that those looks that we put on, and FU and big devils and all this stuff, those are scary guys. And it's not that there aren't scary guys, but even the guys who have done scary things are often the guys who are going to stop and help you on the side of the road, or are going to be really sweet to your kids if you wind up being a neighbor to one of them or something like that. There's a lot of guys who, I think, being an outsider, they've come through it and they go, I'm not gonna, they kind of have a chip on their shoulder when it comes to people they see as bullies, people who they see as elite, or who would look down their nose on anybody, but they're never gonna act that way to someone in need. What I think we've brought, when you talk about, is there something that you've only you have done, and I don't want to exclude Go Fast Don't Die, because one of the things that originally I loved about your guys' brand is how you'd change every swear word to like flip off, or like, you'd change so there was no swearing on your clothes, and it was just so unique. And when I used to do sketch,
like heck on wheels and
heck on wheels. And when I do sketch comedy, right, in Chicago, we were writing these sketches and people would film full of the F word. I remember like changing those to, like, instead of saying fuck off, like it'd say F off, or the character would say F off. And then the character would say, oh, like, go to heck, people thought it was a riot because it was so different, right? And so I resonated really with the humor that you guys have. And so including Go Fast, I think an only that Tobacco has is, I would go so far as to say we might be the funniest, like, motorcycle brand.
Yeah.
And maybe what, like, there is a humor to wearing a hat that says F off. There is a kind of anti-establishment humor to that, right?
Yep.
But there's also a humor to saying heck on wheels on clothing.
Well, that's so I'm going to pause real quick. It's interesting because if everyone, anything that gets done by everyone becomes undifferentiated.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this conversation of positioning and differentiation and competitive advantage, because it's a competitive advantage until your competitors do that too. And I always say that, like, things that work get copycatted, and so if the hat says F off, and that's like, kind of interesting or anti sort of establishment. And when everyone does that, it's like, well, you're not being unique, You're
not even, and it loses the humor. When I watched 10 minutes of the Tony Robbins documentary that was on Netflix a while back, and he was telling somebody, he was saying the F word to somebody, like, get the F up, and like, he was like motivating somebody who's swearing. And I just went, once Tony Robbins starts swearing, like, it's not edgy anymore. I saw like Ted Cruz has a beard, and I'm like, all right, beards are not edgy anymore, and so like, but our thing has never been, we have to be edgy. Like, you look at, and we've rolled with some really cool guys, but at the end of the day, we always like to have a laugh, and humor is another one of those kind of core values that you hear. Tobacco Motorwear, and in the first video, I'll admit, there was not a laugh line in the video, and I was kind of coming to the party, and I'm not going to try to be the class clown when I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
But after we've kind of gotten in with the motorcycle industry, people really like coming out on shoots with us because we have a good time.
Yep.
And then you look at some of the videos we've put out, whether it was the kind of ode to Ryan Reynolds, where everybody was like, I'm Ryan Reynolds, because Ryan Reynolds rides a motorcycle. And if you're not paying attention to motorcyclists, you could miss seeing Ryan Reynolds and you could kill him. So we're all Ryan Reynolds, and that's just a funny concept. And we did a video that was like bad drivers, what bad drivers would want to say to motorcyclists and stuff. And just kind of like showing that, you don't have to ride a Harley. It doesn't matter what bike you ride. Like, if you ride, we're cool with you. And B, we'll take all comers. So if if you've been inside and you're rough around the edges, come on, be nice.
Yep.
And then if you're new to this thing and you're looking for a crew, come on, like,
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, that's cool. You mentioned the name. I'd love to hear, what were your thoughts around why did you kick around a lot of different names? Did you, I have the tobacco jacket and tobacco hat, and I'll get stopped occasionally and be like, is this say tobacco? Like,
you love smoking.
Yeah. Are you smoking? Like, and I'm sure you've gotten
like,
that. It's
like
forever.
I got a vape.
Yeah.
Well, when it came to the name, there were a lot of ideas, and there was a long list, and probably really 10 that got serious consideration. And tobacco was on there because years before, I'd seen a leather jacket in Caesar's Palace that was the most beautiful leather jacket I'd ever seen. And it was, the color on it was tobacco. I forget the brand, but the stores at Caesar's Palace are so nice. It was like $4,000.
Fun random fact: the sky in Caesar's Palace was painted by my grandpa. So
hey,
pretty cool.
Oh,
My family,
yeah.
My parents met in Vegas. They both grew up there.
Yeah.
And my grandpa was a professional painter. So anytime anyone mentions Caesar's Palace, I get a little soft spot. So it's cool.
Well, there you go. Well, that's a good one for me. So I was wandering through there. You go into those shops and I'm like, I know I'm not buying anything. I've already established, right, my attitude towards clothes. But on occasion, I would buy like I had cowboy boots for a while that were like, I spent some money on these cowboy boots that were different. And I had, I bought a shirt one time that was, I think I spent $100. And at that time it was like, I can't believe I spent $100 on a shirt, but it was so different. And I just wanted that piece.
You're like in the pursuit of different, which is cool.
Yeah. And I saw this jacket, and part of it was there were like 6 in the world or 10 in the world. It was a limited edition, and the color of it was tobacco. It was this distressed brown leather, and it was like $4,000 or $5,000. And at the time I had been working, doing sales in like door to door in Vegas, working hard, sweating, and about everything I had was probably that. And I really thought about buying that jacket. And I was like, I'll never regret having it. But it would have been everything I had. And I don't even know if I had a car. And so I didn't buy it. But I always thought that, I was like, tobacco, man, just rolls off the tongue. And I was like, that should be either the name of the jacket company, because leather, and it looks like the jacket literally looked like a big tobacco leaf, like with all those lines in it and everything. And or it should be like, I could see it being the name of like a furniture company that sells like vintage mid-century furniture. And I just have ideas all the time, and that just logged back up in there. And probably, I bet it was 10 years later when that popped back in, when we were looking at naming the company. And I kind of, I kind of thought a lot about it. To be honest, I prayed about it, and it was an interesting kind of feeling of like, that's the name that will resonate with people. And we had a lot of good names. We wanted to pick a name specifically that, you call your jeans Levi's, that right? You don't say, oh, my Levi jeans, and we wanted something that we wanted to be something, I call them my tobaccos. I got to grab my tobaccos, and so I like the sound of that. And a lot of people, brothers and family and friends, told me, oh, you can't name it that, man. Don't name it that.
So then you knew that was it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And none of them they didn't ride motorcycles. And I'm like, this is probably a good thing. And what's been cool, I was talking to my buddy Nash, Tabor Nash over at Nash Motos. And he was asking me about it last week, and he was like, I thought it was really cool that you're taking this thing that maybe has had like this isn't cigarette motos, this isn't smoking, this is tobacco, which is a plant, and that's that's all you ever see. You never see people smoking on our ads or anything like that. And it's really taken this thing that had a purpose, and it's a pretty looking plant, and kind of doing our own thing with it. So again, that's kind of building the theme here of kind of finding what's out there and putting our own spin on it.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's awesome. I mean, that's how you get to differentiation. That's how you get to positioning, is acknowledging like your background and your strengths and your weaknesses, and saying like, how do I, one of my favorite lines is like, when you're honest about your weaknesses, you can come up with an unconventional strategy to win. And I just think that's super cool. And so many times we focus on our strengths. It's like, well, yeah, they're pretty apparent what you're good at, but many times our weaknesses, like you just weirdly, like you just don't pay attention to it. Maybe because it makes you feel less, or something. But I think there is a real art to just being like, I don't have this stuff. I can't, that's not, who I am.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll share the story of where that line came from. It was this 7th grade girls basketball team that didn't have a coach in Silicon Valley. And this dad, like everyone's like, we need a coach. And everyone's like, I'm not going to coach. And one of the dads like, I'll coach. And I think he was from India, if I'm not mistaken. And he grew up playing cricket and watching soccer and playing soccer. So he knew nothing about basketball. So he's like, well, he's a software engineer, CEO of a company or whatnot in Silicon Valley. And so he started watching the sport and was like, this is interesting. Like, it's weird that they don't apply pressure, for
the full court.
Full court. Yeah. They just do it after the halfway point. And so he's like, that seems strange to me. Like, why would you let them come up? And then as they were playing or as they were practicing, he's like, well, he did an analysis. He's like, we're not fast. We're not good shooters. We're not tall. We're not good at dribbling. Like, when you inventory all that, you kind of have to say, we're not good at basketball. Like, we're not going to win is like the first where most people go. And what he did is he just said, well, what we're going to do, I'm going to stay calm. So I'm going to lead this team like I lead my company, and just stay calm and apply good leadership. I'm not going to yell at the girls or whatever. And then we're going to do full court press 100% of the time. And so they did that, and they won the championship. And what ended up happening is the other team started breaking down because they weren't used to that kind of pressure. So everything they were good at, they became less good at. And then as they were starting to fail, the other coach, who was frequently a male, a dad started yelling, which made them worse while he stayed calm, And so in the moral of the story was like, when you're honest about your weaknesses, you can come up with an unconventional strategy to win. And I gotta
write that down, because I don't know if I've been that. I mean, I think we haven't done exactly that. I think that's really good advice. I think we've embraced kind of who we are and been honest about who we are, but I've never really thought of like, and really, I'll be honest with you. So during the pandemic, we really tried to grow, and we thought motorcycling is one of the activities that you can do without, you're wearing a helmet, you're naturally socially distanced, and sure enough, motorcycles, just, you can't keep them on the showroom floor. They're selling a ton. The industry is growing right now. And our thought was hire the team that's going to take us to the next level of growth. And we went out and hired the team, and then after about a year of that, we had to let a lot of the people we hired go. And if I'm being honest and looking at that, there might be something to go, hey, you know what? Right now, we're really good as a tight knit, lean unit, and we need to focus on getting that on that, because again, since we've let those people go, though that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. The pressure that's on our company is a lot less, and I think we're freed up to grow again. And so, if I'm being honest now, maybe the weakness, if I'm being honest about the weakness, is leadership. But you know, maybe I didn't do with that team. Maybe I wasn't able to turn those players into a team that worked, and now I've had to pare back and I'll have to look at that. The tough thing is when you own the company and you're small and stuff, it's you're kind of stuck with the leader. So, you know, I need to kind of maybe figure some stuff out. But I am seeing some of that is like between me, my partner, a couple other you know, core employees that have been with us kind of the whole time. You know, tobacco is a better company than with a lot of people who were really excited about working here. You know, but it seems like, you know, maybe leaning into just we're gonna be small for a while, you know, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and kind of going back to the core of what we were talking about around this, and then I'll come back to that. But it's you know, it's important to not try to play someone else's game. And when you see someone, you know, I come back to basketball a lot just because I really enjoy watching the NBA, and especially Steph Curry. That's how I got into basketball, is watching Steph Curry in fall of 2015. But it was cool because he's this smaller guy, you know, but he starts launching threes from like 35, 40, 45 feet. People don't know what to do with it. Well, it spaced the floor out, you know, in such a way that it created more room and more lanes, more passing lanes. And then they're moving the ball, and they're, you know, frequently getting the most assists in a game. And so they're letting other players play. And so you had this magnetism that Steph Curry pulled people away. And yet, you know, he wasn't playing, obviously he wasn't playing like LeBron, you know.
No.
You know, he was playing his own kind of game. And I think it's easy for companies, but it's also easy for just humans to try to fit in. You know, going back to your point, from an adolescent standpoint, I think this is kind of why we exist. Only Co does, because in adolescence, like, kind of the goal is to fit in. You know, like, you kind of, if you think back to junior high, really, it's like, I just want to fit in.
Yeah.
You know? And some ways people kind of fit in by being bullies. They're like, I'm going to fit in this way, which is kind of weird, but because it kind of stands out, but it's a way to kind of just get in.
Well, I remember being with kind of like I said, when I was a naughty boy, right? There was a crowd that you could just, like, if I'm as mean to these other kids as these kids are, you know,
then I'll fit in.
Then I'll
get a pass. I'll get a pass, and I can be in the
people
crowd.
won't want to tangle with me because they'll see how mean I was.
Yep.
Know? And you know, but yeah, people definitely that. And you know, I teach my kids, and one thing my parents taught us even long before, like, one of the earliest little piece of wisdom I ever remember learning was dare to be different. And it was, I remember these plastic cups, and there was like a bunch of green ones and there's a pink one, you know, and if you got the pink one, you know, your brothers would tease you about it. And then, but my mom said, dare to be different. And like, that was a mantra when I was real little.
Yeah.
And that's just stuck with me all the time. It's like, and like you said, in middle school, what you really want to do is fit in. And as a person, as a company, sometimes you got to just dare to be different.
Yeah. Well, and I think we take that adolescence mindset collectively, humanity does, or, you know,
sure,
business leaders do, and they go, oh, I'm going to start this company, but they're trying to fit in, you know, fit into the market instead of maybe make a market, you know, define a market, define a customer, create a customer. Well, to create a customer, define a market, or to do that, you have to stand out in some way. You know, like, you have to be willing to put yourself out there and do things a little differently. And so, yeah, I think it's interesting because, the keys to success in adolescence is to fit in, and the keys to success in business is to stand out at some level, whether it's price or brand or look or feel or process or product or whatever. It's, you want to stand out. And so that's sometimes feels like our kind of cross to bear, is to just help people step outside of the market and say, well, great, you can still do what you're doing, but What if you did it in a different way? What if you talked about it in a unique way? What if you
like one of the things we started out with doing is, like I said, my background really was in video production, and I'd done a lot of these funny kind of viral videos for people. And our thought was, well, if we do video really well, because I didn't go to fashion school, and I didn't go to business school, but the thought was, if we do video really well, and maybe we do this kind of video, this is what we're not seeing, and in the market, nobody's really talking about motorcycles like through humor right now. And really at the time, safety, and to this day, it kind of boggles my mind. Like, I think we own the safety apparel marketing. Like, I never see, you could tell me, but I never see ads for, like, I'll see banner ads for other brands that sell safety apparel, and they may be way bigger than us because they have distribution, and they're in Europe, and everybody over there wears whatever they wear. But whether it's helmets, gloves, like, I almost see no video content, funny or otherwise, from any of these brands. And I get that, and video can be complicated to create.
Take some time.
But that is one differentiator, or point of differentiation for tobacco, is that we'll frequently roll out with a video, whether it's launching a product, which is more product focused, not necessarily funny or anything like that, or doing a video like we did those videos championing like the cause of lane splitting, which had some humor in there and stuff like that. But most people just won't make, especially those types of videos, and the like, what bikers have to, or what riders have to say to bikers and stuff like that, or what drivers have to say to bikers. It's like they don't pitch product. And so if you're gonna spend time and effort on a video, like, imagine Pepsi putting out a video with no Pepsi logos or no Pepsi product, and so, like, us being willing to go, like, hey, this is just lane splitting is just a cause that we believe in. We're going to make a video, and we think that if we say this thing that I think a lot of motorcycles think, that lane splitting should be legal in most places, if we say that, then that's better than saying, and buy tobacco, because people are just going to go, gosh dang it, like, they're doing the heavy lifting for our community, and I want to thank them. So I'm going to buy a t-shirt if that's what I can get. Or
you're contributing, like, part of your, and that's for Go Fast too. And that's another reason I think we get along, is we're interested in contributing somehow, not just being noise, not just doing a thing, not just offering a product, but trying to really bring some value in the experience. And it's really, it's cool to see. It's cool to see. I wanted to circle back. You talked about lean, and this is just kind of a thing I've been thinking about. And in many ways, it's kind of a point of differentiation a bit as well. But there's a book that our project manager turned us on to called A Company of One. And the whole concept is about the value of keeping your company small. It's not saying you have to be one person. It's like a company of one mindset. And it's about operating lean, and about being in a position where, what if, to make more profit, you didn't have to hire a new person, you could automate something, and it just walks you through this thought. And also, what is there value in doubling in size and giving up your freedom for spending time on the weekends with your kids? Like, is that actually valuable? Like, stuff like that.
That's exactly kind of what COVID is now in our more than second year of COVID, right? It's past 2 years, or coming up.
We're like 1 month out.
2 years dealing with this. I mean, everybody got that stimulus money, and there was an influx then, and then that stimulus money went away, and kind of a long, kind of like, feel like America holding its breath, wondering what would happen. And it's not that the motorcycle industry didn't grow, because it has, but so many things are changing that, like, I think there's a lot of uncertainty, and that's led us to kind of return to, we were a startup, and we went into growth mode. We've kind of gone back to that startup team, but now, because we're no longer a startup, we've been around for 7 years. Yeah, I call it the lean mode, right? And we got a bigger team, and then we went, that's not really working. We went back, but we've definitely thought about, okay, what do we want out of this? It was nice to have people in meetings, and you can kind of, hey, do this, do that. And it was cool to go on Slack and see decisions being made while we weren't there. But as we looked back and analyzed, this could very likely could be my failing. But I saw that I was still, though we had a bigger team and work was getting done while I wasn't involved, we weren't able to launch more products. We weren't able to launch more videos than we did with the small team. And we've kind of gone, maybe there's a different kind of model of work. Instead of having lots of people doing lots of things, let's all do one thing for a week. And then in the meantime, we'll plan, okay, like next month, we're going to do these 2 big initiatives. And so, during that week where we're all focused on like this one thing, all need to kind of go, okay, I need to do 2 or 3 different things so that in a month we'll be ready to do that other thing, and our small team is kind of doing that. And it's not that there aren't sacrifices to be made. For example, like sometimes instead of shipping same day or next day, it's shipping next day or the next day. And because we're spreading people a little thin. I will say though that, like, returning to a situation where we're seeing a little more cream, a little more profit, that removes
A lot of stress.
that, and I'm going, if I'd rather be a $1 million company that's making 100 grand in profit on the year than a $2 million company that's making $0 or going in the hole. And, I'd rather be a $5 million company that's making 500,000 than a $10 million company that's going in the hole or making 100 grand.
Yep.
That would be a lot less fun with 500 grand. Or in the scenario, like with 100 grand profit, we could actually do some of the things that we consider the most fun things to do. You make that video, you take that trip, or, you guys have gone to Thailand. And at the time when you guys did that, I was like, how are they doing that? I still don't really know how you did that. But like, those kinds of projects where I'm like, it's fun, it's useful for the business, there's good things to do it. Could we do that, run off and do that right now? Well, we couldn't last year, despite having enough people to babysit at home. There wasn't enough cream.
Yeah, it's weird.
Sometimes
more is less,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep.
That's awesome. Sure. Well, what I was thinking, we're coming up close to an hour, but I wanted to spend a minute here and just say, like, for someone that maybe doesn't know your business, your brand, your company, are there any other points of differentiation around product or brand that maybe you haven't touched on? Or if you were to say, this is what makes us unique or different, and we've covered a lot, so if it's totally cool if you shared what you wanted, but I wanted to get a pause for a moment.
Yeah, let me jump in. I know that not everybody you're talking to is a motorcyclist, right? So, I mean, one point of differentiation is just, we do so much apparel, motorcycle protective apparel, that if you ride a motorcycle, come check us out for sure. Not, there's the plug, but and the differentiation there is that I know of. I would say we're doing so much of it in the US. Not everything we make is US made, but so much of the protective apparel is. And I think that is a big point of differentiation. A lot of bikers care about that. A lot of people say they care about it, and then when it comes time, they'd rather something cheaper. But I think for the riders, like, I think that is a point that really sets us apart. And then I would say for anybody, the way we go about doing product is a little bit different than most of your fashion brands. Because like this flannel that we make, these flannels, they're called distinctly crafted flannels. We make like the Bridger jacket. It's not a protective jacket. We make backpacks and bags through our sister company, Pack Animal. The way I take a product to market, because I didn't go to fashion school, because I didn't maybe do things the more conventional way, I feel like I feel like it's probably the least efficient way to do this thing. There's probably people who would go, oh man, there's your profit right there. That's where you're losing them. But the fact that I know the factories, I've been to them, whatever country they're in, like we're doing boots right now. They're being done in Leon, Mexico. We find factories who are doing really good work wherever they are, LA to Mexico to Asia, whatever it is. And we sample, and in almost every case, I've been there and met them. I've had to do that and travel, and so and then just are almost always, you can flip a coin as you're doing production, and you spend more money or do it better, or maybe cut a little corner and stuff like that. And just our attention to detail, our attention to quality, our attention to fabrics. I've become like this, creep that just has to go and touch everything. And it's just, it feels like something that was made for you. It feels like, again, hate to pound it, but it's unique. Even a flannel shirt, you can buy 100 flannel shirts. But the fact that, like, one thing that always bugged me on flannel shirts was how on the side seam, how often like the pattern doesn't line up. And I'm going, how hard could it be? Just line that up. Apparently it's not easy. And so I was like, no, higher end shirts do that, and then lower end shirts don't. And so I was like, I want this stuff to line up. And they're like, well, it's gonna mean like placement time, like all this stuff while you're cutting the material. And then the craftsmen have to be more careful and all those things. And so those kind of little details that maybe you've never even thought of, I wind up kind of thinking about those. And by the time you get a product that's made by Tobacco, you're going to go like, you're going to get it. You're going to look at it. Oh, that looks cool. You're going to buy it. Then you're going to get it. And then you're going to discover 5 or 10 more things about it that you'll like.
Yeah, no, it's very true. I like I mentioned earlier, I have a jacket and love it.
Yeah.
It's well made. It fits well. It stands out, and it's just, and that's the cool part too, is for someone who doesn't ride motorcycles, you could even buy like one of the protective jackets. I mean, it doesn't, it has sleeves that you can put them in or not. And so if you don't have them, then it's a jacket, but it's,
and that was one of the things, is like, look, I like leather jackets, and I have a few that I had from before I was buying protective stuff. And I go like, there's like, you can have a leather jacket that isn't protective, and you can have a motorcycle jacket that is protective. But you don't want to wear it when you're driving around. You don't want to wear it on a date unless you're riding your motorcycle, or or you might have pants that are like, oh, these are great for riding the motorcycle, but I'm not going to wear them otherwise. And I was like, look, if I'm spending $300 on something, I want to wear it
whenever I want.
I want to be able to wear it whenever I want, and what we find with Tobacco is that's what people say. These jeans have become my favorite jeans, that I wear them all the time. This jacket, I wore it all winter long. Didn't take the bike out once, but just, I love how I look in it. My wife loves how my butt looks in these pants, like those sorts of things. where that's you know, where I feel like so much of our industry has come at it from utilitarian first, and we really put fashion first, and then we figure out how to, you know, how to bring the safety right up alongside it.
Well, and to your point, I think in some of your ads, it's been like the safest gear you can wear is the one you're wearing, you know?
Oh, the safest gear is the safest gear is the gear you'll wear. You'll actually wear.
So good. So good. I love it. And I think it's like so true. Cause if you won't wear it, then you're not gonna, if you don't like it, then you're not gonna wear it. And if you're not gonna wear it, then you're not gonna be safe, you know? So it's genius.
We've had a bunch of people tell us when they buy our stuff or at shows, it's like, I had this other pair of jeans that I bought because I knew I needed to protect myself. I never wear them because I know, like, I wind up feeling self-conscious about how I look. And so, you know, and that's what we'll continue to try to do is give our existing customers always something else to add to the collection. Because nobody also wants to be like, oh, you're the guy who wears the exact same outfit every time you're on the bike, right? And so it's like, yeah, maybe you have a pair of denim jeans, maybe you have a pair of canvas kind of workwear style pants, maybe you have this fit or that fit, maybe you got a vest that you put over a different thing, you know. And so
kind of modular, and you can have more than one, and nice.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, cool, man. This has been awesome. I really appreciate you jumping in and doing the first round with me on standouts. I'm really looking forward to continuing to do this, but I encourage you all to check out Dave's company, Tobacco Motorwear. It's super cool. And
you can follow us up on Instagram at Tobacco Motorwear Co. Of course, our website, tobaccomotorwear.com. And then we're on Facebook. So go give us a follow. I think it's Tobacco Motorwear.
Yeah. I think that's right. I was just looking it up. I think that's right. So it's awesome. And then for anyone else tuning in, if you're interested in going through this with me and talking about your business and talking about your philosophy and giving, you know, this platform an opportunity to learn about you and what makes you different, what makes you stand out, just reach out on our Facebook or Instagram, message us. And we'd love to chat about what that might look like. So anyway, I'll be trying to do this every Tuesday, Thursday, or as many times as I'm able to. And thanks for tuning in today.
You do a great job, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.